Oh, look, it's time for Fridays with Jarod on Bring It In. It's going to be an exciting day today. Remember simpler times when only the mob was mad at us?
I mean, look, I have to take my my blame or share in like.
Oh, it's all your fault.
But I mean, look, whatever. Like, we speak the truth out here. I mean, nothing in there was a lie.
No, we're doing our best here. We are. It's not always comfortable. Anyway, we don't have to talk about this. Let's not get sidetracked by this. There we go. Judy, something really weird's happening there. Do you see that? Okay,
yes.
We're good.
We got it.
Okay, it's Fridays with Jarod. We do the 9x90. Welcome to David Thorpe. Welcome to Jarod Hector. Whenever you're ready, sir.
Yeah, so Tim Bontemps of ESPN just had a new story come out about the security measures in place with the bubble happening in Orlando. By the way, folks, that looks like it is very much happening and will be happening in a few short days here. He tweeted something interesting, and this article expanded on it. The NBA shared with its players they'll use local, state, and federal enforcement plus special operations forces to secure the bubble in Orlando. In addition, social media networks will be followed by Walt Disney Security, NBA Global Security, and Department of Homeland Security for potential threats, and they will share intelligence. That is fascinating to me. The article went on to say there will be no armed guards inside the actual bubble, but this idea of sharing information across intelligence agencies and the local agencies, local authorities part is interesting given the current climate that we're in right now. I can't imagine local law enforcement are very pleased with the world, and in particular, Black people at the moment. In case you don't know, the NBA is Black, right? Like, overwhelmingly Black. I'm just so curious to wonder what their level of, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist in that way, but if an actual threat does come, what is the protocol going to be? Who's going to be doing what? Is local law enforcement going to be following things out to fruition? Are they going to be doing things from the inside because they're so angry by this? And if people like LeBron and Chris Paul, etc., use the platform, as they say, to continue to promote the message, what will that do to that local law enforcement? I find that all very fascinating.
Can we just pause for 1 second? I'm pretty sure that what Judy just did during that 90 seconds was run the clock, do the screen share, and physically move to a better location where there wasn't a lighting issue. Judy, is that what happened there?
Well,
she's incredible.
Change your background.
I changed my background. I'm no longer in the set of The Office.
Oh.
She's no longer in front of Stanley's cubicle.
I believed it. I believed it. It was real.
Stanley's the best.
Sorry, David, your turn.
All right, so Zach Lowe, my friend, interviewed Draymond Green and wrote a nice article, I thought, about with the headline, "The entire system is broken for college athletes." That's what Draymond Green believes. And I want to address it. It's weird. My son is literally now a college basketball player as soon as he arrives on campus anyway. And I've got to pay more attention to this kind of stuff. And the truth is, there are some, in most cases, I think, terrible programs do a terrible job with their athletes. I need hours, not days. I've been doing this for over 30 years, sending players to colleges. And there are a few that are magnificent. I am very proud to say my son will be part of one of them. But he is lucky, and that's why we want him to go there. I think we have a moment, and Draymond Green says this, where we're open to everything right now. Right, because of what's happening with COVID scaring us and Black Lives Matter, which is infuriating us. We're looking at lots of things for the first time, truly, genuinely for change. And we need to look at college sports with the same microscope, the same intent, the same ambition to really make radical change. I've always said I'm on the player side, and we need to be on the player side for this and change things so that more of them enjoy an amazing experience like my son's going to have.
Well said, Coach.
So yesterday my phone rang. We had some arrangement, but Chris Bosch on the caller ID, and then we talked for 40 minutes maybe. And he's first of all, he's like the MVP of calm. He's got a super alert brain, but he's not freaking out. And I found out, I was like, I just want to talk to Chris more because you just feel calm. But I did get to share with him this little theory I've been cooking up, and his interesting take. The first time I was aware of like sort of violent sounding white racist mobs on the internet was the summer of 2010, the night of LeBron's decision. I was like in the ESPN comments, and I was just like, I've been on the internet a ton, but this was a crazy new thing. It just, to me, it just seemed out. I was like, what is going on here? And that to me has felt like it started then and drove straight through to like Trump and what we're seeing today. I asked Chris about this kind of theory, and I was going to read it, but I'm almost out of time. I better read the piece. And he doesn't, of course, endorse the idea that racism is new, which is also not what I was saying, but the sort of organized online thing, to me, was born that night. And he didn't discard it. And it's worth reading the piece, I think. He's a hell of a dude, a good voice to hear in a crazy time. And I yield my time.
Okay.
No,
We need to hear more.
Bosch is good. And that was a good piece. Well done by you. Two great pieces by you yesterday, Henry.
One of them was easy.
And not quite as impactful in certain ways.
So HBCUs, as everybody know, are historically Black colleges and universities. And there is a groundswell sort of happening around as you see this ESPN article, why HBCUs could again become serious options for elite basketball prospects. And that is Mikey Williams, who's ranked number 3 by the ESPN 2023 recruiting class. I haven't seen him play much, but I hear he's pretty good. This would be very interesting to see if elite basketball talent starts going to HBCUs, because what that will then mean is that one of the problems HBCUs have had since their inception, and we're going to talk about this later as we get into a piece in the New York Times, is their lack of funding. And if you get these great elite high school talents to go there and they become dominant powerhouses, you watch the money start flowing. And the capitalist machine will be a big theme of today's conversation. But if that happens, that can then turn these HBCUs into even better institutions of higher learning that can do real tremendous good in not just the Black community, but the world community at large. We're on a group chat here, and Coach Thorpe talked about something. Imagine all these Black lives that if they weren't silenced by slavery and all these various effects, what would happen, right? Well, the future of that, or the potential of that, is if an HBCU is fully funded like a PWI is, predominantly white institution, what would the output of that be? That would be incredible. And so I hope Mikey and many other high-level basketball players consider it.
I like it. I like it a lot. So our governor, Mike Pence.
He's not your governor. He's not your governor.
Mike Pence. Ron DeSantis was with Mike Pence. So you can
have him if you want.
Poetically for weeks and weeks about how Florida was going to be just like New York. Wait 2 weeks, Florida's going to be next. Just like Italy, wait 2 weeks. Well, hell, we're 8 weeks away from that, and it hasn't happened. Not only do we have a lower death rate, well, we have way lower deaths generally. We have a lower death rate than the Acela Corridor, D.C., everyone up there. We have a lower death rate than the Midwest, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. But even in our region, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida has the lower death rate, and I was the
Yes, so our friend John Hollinger used to say that terrible teams love to celebrate minor events with a big parade, to basically to mask how inept they are. That is a case example. It's like, imagine an NBA game where instead of interviewing the coach after the first quarter, you interview the coach in the lead after the first 4 minutes, and he starts boasting about how great his team is and how great they're going to do. On May 20th, we were 4 minutes into this, and he was acting as if everything is great and we're the best. And that's where we're supposed to be hosting the NBA, my state. It is a scary thing. My investor guy likes to focus on really smart, well-run companies and funds to invest. Probably a good idea to do the same thing going forward with pretty much everything.
On a related note, the cover of today's New York Times has the story about, includes this quote: "What is clear is that the proportion of people who are younger appears to have dramatically changed," said Joseph McCormick, professor of epidemiology at the UT Health School of Public Health in Brownsville. It is really quite disturbing. You've seen this story everywhere. We're seeing a little of it in the NBA. The Pacers, Malcolm Brogdon, the Heat's Derek Jones Jr., the Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, it's been reported that they've all tested positive, or some of them have told us. We don't know how many positive tests we don't know about. And thus far, when we talk about a positive test in the NBA, we talk about, someone reports to us on social media for a couple of weeks that they either do or don't have mild symptoms, and then we talk about them as players again. But we can't count on this narrative going like that, right? Like there are going to be some long-term ramifications as there are more positive tests. So I don't know. I feel like, I read that story on the cover of the New York Times carefully, looking for signs of like hospitalization rates, and they are elevated. Like, and there was one, and I think in Jacksonville, the hospitalization rate is 1/3 of the people hospitalized are younger. So to me, I'm like, I don't think we should expect that it's going to go in a sort of smooth way every time as young people get this virus. And I yield my time. I'm so I don't
Henry, we just got an email from the NBA and NBPA. They announced 16 positive COVID tests.
there you go.
No names, but just 16 tests. And I'm sure the reason why they released that was this idea that, oh, great, it's only 16, we're doing okay. But anyway, back to this story. So an article I saw on WBUR, it circulated through Medium, and it's prepare for the ultimate gaslighting. And I don't know if you guys have been looking around where you live, but restaurants are opening up again. People are sitting outside. People aren't wearing masks. We are actively participating in the gaslighting of our own selves, right? Like this is what we're doing. When the NBA goes back to Orlando and we see all the cutaways after the timeouts of all the people with their goofy hats on and the ears and everybody's smiling like, oh, life is good. Look, it's basketball. NFL is coming back. Like all of these things that are quote unquote normal are going to make a lot of us forget about, hey, we're still in the throes of an actual pandemic here. The state of Florida, where David lives, used to put out a 110-page document every day about COVID in the counties with detailed breakdown. That 110-page document went from that to 4 pages, like in the last couple. And it's like, not because there's less cases, there's actually more. So what is actually going on right now in the world? And marketers and politicians are going to try to convince us all, it was nothing, no big deal. Meanwhile, more than 100,000 people are dying and are continuing to die every day. So people, stay woke.
I think it was 19 years ago. I was working University of Florida camp where my mentor, Lon Kruger, was the head coach. They were a very good team. And where they play, they have a big court where the arena is, and they have a practice court up high. And that practice court, there was a game going on. Daytona Beach Mainland was playing. I never heard of the school really. And every single Gator coach was there. And I didn't understand why. And no one on the court was all that good. And then I realized it was a tall, light-skinned, very, very, very skinny boy of 15, I think, standing next to me in a cast with a sling. And all the coaches were hovering around him. And as he moved away later on, I said to Coach Kruger, why are you guys all here for this game? He's like, oh, that guy next to you, he's been the best player in the country in a couple years. He's a sophomore. His name is Vince Carter. So I've known about him ever since. He beat all my friends in the playoffs. He went to the Final Four the last 2 years, won the last one. I coached against him at 5-star camp. One of the most incredible men I've ever gotten a chance to get to know. We were never friends, but I listened to him speak a lot. He was brilliant in high school, brilliant in college, a brilliant professional who was just very unlucky being drafted by, back then, a bad team, bad program. I hope one day he coaches. He knows the game really well, raised by incredible people. He's one of the all-time greats, and he's retiring.
Thank you, Vince. All right, last thing. This is a little Bring It In story. So I never met Jane McManus before the pandemic. I met her on this show with all of you. Jane McManus, and I was trying to write about reopening sports. She connected me to Erica Van Stone, who's been on this show. She shared with us her program here. Christy Oshwindon, who's been on this show, she's the only person I'm talking about who I actually haven't met before, but just once before the show and has been on the show, was also writing about like who's doing reopening sports well. And so I connected her with Erica Van Stone, and Erica Van's plan. Christy Oshwindon sent it to Zachary Binney. Zachary Binney is an Emory epidemiologist who I think is fair to say holds the esteemed title of being the epidemiologist most cited in the sports media anywhere in the world today on all sports. And when he got this plan, if you look, he just, Judy, if you scroll, I think, so we see the one that's at the top. It says something like, somewhere it says his mind, my head is exploding with how good roller derby's return to sport guidelines document is, right? I feel like, and they're going to hold the women's flat track derby is going to hold a symposium so other sports can learn how to do like what they did. And this is good, right? This is what we want. This is kind of spreading some wisdom about how sports can work. I think people like Zachary hadn't even imagined it could be so well planned. And now that he knows about it, it's a new bar. I think that's good. Did I use all my time? There we go.
Is Adam going to that symposium?
I'm sure he'll be invited.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
We don't have
all
that
right.
in the NBA.
No, unfortunately.
Yeah, did you guys see Vince Carter played against 37% of everyone who's ever been in an NBA uniform? He played with or against.
Yeah, I mean, Vince is
that?
incredible.
Oh,
was
Judy,
that
we're no
that-
longer in the 9
I
by
think we're
90.
done, Judy. That was 3.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick. I know we're going to talk more serious stuff, but a
He's
quick,
not here. There you go.
I have many Vince Carter stories, but here's just one. He was a rising senior, ranked number 2, I think, in his class. And we were at a 5-star camp where you actually evaluate players. It's a drag. You draft them. And I was in the league, but I would love to have drafted him. I knew he was going to go we draft by position. He's a shooting guard. And hundreds of coaches are behind me just to be there to watch the players, even during the draft process. And a little dude is behind me. He's from Marquette. And Marquette was fine back then. They weren't Sweet 16 likely candidates, whatever. And Vince is very skinny. And 5-star is outdoors and incredibly physical. Guys are playing for ranking. We had 9 future NBA players there that week. And he's kind of casual with his stuff. He's not super quick. He's not super fast. And there's no dunking allowed at 5-star because it ruins the whole camp because we're using outdoor courts. So you didn't really notice him all that much. And he literally says to the group, boy, see, that guy right there might be a good player wherever he's from. He didn't know who he was. He's going to struggle with this week with all the talent and how physical and athletic everyone is. And I didn't know the guy, but I turned around to him and I just whispered, that's Vince Carter. He's number 2 in the country. And the guy's like, that's why Marquette's having problems right now. He was really funny. And everyone laughed. That's part of what his genius is. You didn't realize how he's really a natural. Like some players are just born to play sports, I think. Like some people might be born in music. Vince could play all 5 positions. That week he played the 5 because nobody could guard him in the post. And they won the championship. They beat Marbury in the finals. And I've seen him. I've talked to his teammates too. He coaches during the game. I've watched him standing up repeatedly when he was in Dallas, coaching guys up all the time. Just a special person. I think his mom was a principal for many years. Really an amazing story. And I hope he stays involved with basketball because he has a lot to bring to us still.
I think he will. I think he's going to either go into broadcasting or something and do that for a little while.
He can do whatever he wants.
Because he's pretty natural at that. Like he's just very good at so many different things. No, Vince.
He was the drum major for his school. He was the drum major.
Yeah. Vince is an uber talented guy.
Zach Lowe wrote a really good story, actually, just on to the extent his career has advanced analytics around it. This was years ago. Vince is one of the best ever, too. Like I do feel like he didn't fit the Jordan scowl mold.
Right.
Yeah.
And he had some injuries. But the fact is, he killed it. I mean, there are not a lot of players who can shoot like that and get to the rim like that and be a good teammate like that. Someone was yesterday. There was is he a top 10 all-time shooting guard? Like to me, that's a no-brainer. But
yeah, for sure.
There's a story about him. I wasn't there, but when he used to go to China every year for his sneakers.
Thank you, Devin.
He wrote 2 hours. He wrote into his program in China 2 hours a day where he had to have a gym with just him and his trainers locked every day. Like he was a dedicated athlete all the way through. It's why he lasted so long. Being thin helped, by the way, too. He stayed in shape all the time. And I love telling people this too. When he graduated to Turner Beach Manly and went to North Carolina, where they went to the Final Four, I think, his sophomore year.
Yep.
His team won the next year. They beat Teddy Dupay, who was scoring 50 a game for my buddy's team, Timmy Maloney for Cape Coral Mariner, who was averaging 100 points a game. Daytona won a second straight title without Vince. I was doing media then. I went to the press conference after the game, and the players, their best players, their famous football players, said, Vince taught us how to win. Like, we did this because what we learned with Vince, had to care about each other, had to be great teammates all the time, had to play incredibly hard. Like, he had a lasting impact on dudes.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, he's amazing. Amazing.
Last Vince story. Sorry, Henry. When he was on the Kings, they'd come through Brooklyn. And so, I'm at the arena super early. and Harry Giles was not really getting the playing time, and he's just on the court working with Giles one-on-one. He's like, nah, see, when you do this, I need you to catch. And like, really, like, typically what a coach does, which Harry's going to get that, and Harry stayed out for his coach like later, but Vince was doing that with him 2-3 hours, just really working with him on all that. And I'm like, Vince, that's a Duke guy. How you feeling about that? He's like, no, I got to help the young fella out, man. Like, and it was just really cool to watch him literally teach him how to play basketball, right? Like, it was incredible.
Now I'm gonna second guess myself, but on this show, I think I told the story of, did he break up the fight when, oh my gosh, my memory's so bad. What's his name wanted to kill Mark Cuban, right? Wasn't it Vince?
Jason Kidd?
Yeah, yes.
No. Oh, come on.
Steve, was it
His book's right over
Lamar
there.
Odom?
Yeah, when Lamar Odom thought Cuban kicked him, it was Vince who said, hey, right? It was Vince, I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
I hope I have that right. This is personal television. Okay, but actually there's one other thing. I've had such the benefit of like a lot of Davis time through the years, and I've learned so much about basketball. This is one of the coolest things to me. Like, Gerald Green in a dunk contest is about as good as it ever gets. But David pointed out almost never dunks in games for a reason he's about to explain. And Vince Carter is the opposite of this, right? Can you explain like what's going on here?
Yeah, no, I'm glad to. And then I had to tell a 20-second story of his best ever non-dunk that I
We're gonna
witnessed.
have a hard time getting up this Vince Carter thing.
Yeah, he deserves it. So guys like Gerald Green, and years ago when David Lee was a McDonald's All-American, there was another player on his team. What's his name? James Lee, was it? Who went to Florida also.
Can we make a highlight reel of like old men forgetting things today?
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Dunk contests are great, but the guy never dunked in a game. And
James
that
White?
takes a
James
different
White.
kind of talent.
James
White, that's what it was. James
White. Bilal got
Good
it.
job, Bilal.
Same as Gerald Green. James White went to Florida. He got 1 or 2 breakaway dunks his whole freshman year. That was it. He never dunked 5-on-5 in the half court. That takes a different kind of talent. And more important, those games actually count. Dunk contests, there's no defense. And so I've always looked at that. Are you dunking in games? I don't really care about exhibition stuff. Vince, of course, we all know how often he dunked in games, right? There was a talent that he wasn't the most athletic guy in terms of quickness and speed. He knew how to use, just like James Harden isn't. He knew how to use whatever he had to create opportunities to get dunks. Go ahead.
The thing you said to me, David, that I always remember is like we may have been talking about James White or Gerald Green, but you were like, you can't see it. So there are a bunch of defenders, and like you have to see where you're gonna find.
It's like a running back hitting the hole, right? Really athletic running backs. Very often, I used to watch football a lot, run right into someone, and Emmitt Smith never did that. Yeah. Emmitt Smith saw it before the play ever happened and avoided it. You want to avoid contact. It's the same thing in basketball. That takes some imagination. That's why I call him a natural. The game just made sense to him. So at 5-star, we do a thing called situation tournament, where it's super cool, guys. The NBA should do this, where just for fun. So the first thing would be like, Skins down 3 with the ball at half court, 20 seconds left, or Shirts down 1 under their own basket, 8 seconds left. We did all these tournaments.
Love that.
And so Vince's team made the finals of that also. And my team, we lost to Marbury, made 3 half-court shots to beat us. No joke. 2 of them came late, but it was Marbury, so the rest counted anyway. So Vince is down 1, ball at half court, 1 second left. That wasn't the situation. That was the end of the game in overtime of their last game. Everyone knows the play. It's Vince Carter. It's 11 o'clock at night. The entire camp is watching, and we know what's going to happen. His coach, Brad Traynor, is from Orlando, actually, draws up the play, Bob Traynor. They throw a lob to him, and there's a collective groan because the ball is, I swear to you, Vince explodes, unfurls those super long arms, but he can't dunk. And I'm thinking this is happening in slow motion. Screw it, he's going to dunk it anyway because the game doesn't count. He goes up and gets it and then lays it like Dr. J. Jordan in the championship. Everyone there that night remembers that is elite level athleticism and style.
Oh, yeah.
It was so cool. It's
cool. An art form, right? The best players in many ways are artists, right? They're incredible at this game, and their ability to find, as you say, Coach, see it before it actually happens, right? And they're they always talk about the zone, right? Like, and it's just the game, we're watching it, it's fast. But when they're watching it, it's so slow.
Right.
And it's like, that to me is incredible.
Yeah.
I have to watch, like, some players. I can only understand what they're doing when I watch in slow mo, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's one of them. We're just going on and on with the Vince Carter stories. My first All-Star game I ever went to, I never really liked All-Star games, to be honest, but I went to the 2000 Oakland Vinsanity The Dunk Contest was the first one. So I'm, a young sports writer and kind of like, oh, what's this thing like? And then, that happens. Like, the arena just is not like,
and you were like, what? This is great.
I was like, I guess I should have respected the dunk contest a lot more. It's fucking great. It was just an amazing event. I mean, just you're witnessing even now there's really high quality video of those dunks, right? But even now, I'm still just gives me chills. But only in retrospect was it clear that was not a standard dunk contest. And then
He was.
I mean, there have been some great dunks, but come on, that was like
Oh,
the
yeah.
the room changed.
He was a real. I wish he had played for Pop, who a coach that knew how to take advantage of his incredible, unique set of skills and basketball IQ, because he literally was a 1 through 5. Well, I mean, he couldn't guard the 5, but he could post. And that's what Dean Smith did with him his freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
He played him a lot inside and posted him. He didn't play him as shooting guard. He was, and just the gentlest guy, the sweetest guy. Competed his ass off on the court, gentle off the court. That
Carolina team was good. It was him and Jameson. That was a hell of a Carolina team.
He and T-Mac, I saw them when they were in Toronto together. I saw them in Golden State one year before T-Mac was all that good. Yeah, that was a pretty nice tandem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jarod, easy. This is going to be easy one for you. Smooth transition to slavery reparations. Go.
Simple, smooth transition.
Well, elite to elite, great to great. Great.
Thank you. I'm sure you guys all have seen this, and if you haven't, Nicole Hannah-Jones, the New York Times wonderful writer, wrote this piece for the New York Times Magazine, What is Owed, right? And it's really about the case for reparations. And, if you know Ta-Nehisi Coates, he wrote a similar piece for The Atlantic 6, 7, 8 years ago, somewhere around there. And what I love about Nicole's piece is she gets into the literal weeds about everything and why and how we are where we are. And yes, it is time for my favorite band, The Capitalist Machine, right? And we're going to talk about why and how the economics are all connected to this. And she uses a line in there and she borrows it from Coates where he says, racism isn't the father, right, of economic exploitation, right? Like it's the economic exploitation first that birthed the racism, right? And this is what's so incredible about it when you think about what it is we're talking about when we're fighting for Black Lives Matter and how we change this entire system, right? It isn't just about police reform, it's not those things. It's the larger issue that if you truly want to live in a society where you believe and where you want to see an actual practice that all races are legitimately equal, you have to go back to the economics and what was owed and promised to whom and what was not given, right? When slavery was emancipated and when, we were freed, so to speak, right? The government had all these rules, like, okay, we got to give them land, we got to do this, that's this, and a third. Didn't happen, right? Like, essentially did not do it. And over the course of time in history, all that happened was they changed laws and practices to keep instituting the same system that was happening all along. Freed slaves were all of a sudden, it was like, okay, we don't want to give these people anything, so what are we going to start doing? Instituting crimes around not having a job. Well, if you just kick me off of this plantation and now I can't go anywhere and work, what am I going to do? So now the thing is, okay, well, you get back into this indentured servitude contract with the former slave owners, right? And you go back into sharecropping and all these ridiculous things, convict leasing. I mean, it's the history that she lays out in this piece is incredible, and you can see the seed of it through the Reconstruction, redlining and mortgages, the GI Bill, right? The idea that when you fight a war and you come at the GI Bill, you can use that to get your education and buy a house. Except if you're Black, you actually can't, right? Like, well, how does that work? We did the same thing, right? You and I fought in the same war. Here's this thing, but I cannot use the funds that you gave to all of us to use, right? And it's like compound interest. Year over year over year over year, you can't catch up. It's literally impossible. Everyone's seen that little graph, I'm sure, at some point when you learned about finance 101, right? Person starts saving for their retirement at 25, puts away however much money. Same person starts saving at 35. It doesn't matter what the 35-year-old person does. They'll never catch the person who started at 25 because of compound interest. That's just how this game works. So think about compound interest over hundreds of years. This is where we are, right? And so this idea of people who come out against reparations saying, it can't be done, it can't be done. I said this on here before. The government came up with a $2.2 trillion stimulus plan in weeks. You can find it if you actually want to do it. Not that difficult, right? The question is, do you want to actually live in a society where Black people have that economic equality? And, you know, the answer, and what history has told us thus far, is no. And if you look again at current times, right? So the United States government would give out land to European immigrants, right, when they came over here. If you trace back a lot of the farmlands that were given out, a lot of them were immigrants who immigrated here from other parts of Europe. Think about the college athletic system right now, right? Okay, football, basketball players, largely American, largely Black, fund this multi-billion-dollar industrial sports complex, funding sports like golf, swimming, tennis, etc. Look at the influx of people that particularly play those country club sports. A lot of them are white, also European, who come here from another country, right? It's the same thing. Labor over here, not paying you. Here you go, free college education for white, Nordic golfer. Win, right? It's all, when we talk about things baked into our society and into the fabric of who we are, it's right in front of your face. Just open your eyes and you're like, holy hell, this is where we're at. So I really encourage people to read that. And I'm sure we got questions and thoughts and comments. So let's roll.
There was a property ownership has, you talk about the compounding interest, et cetera, has been, the anchor of the story for a long time in like the disparity. And actually, I was really moved by this reporting. It was a while ago. They studied basically, can you come up with $400 in an emergency? And I forget the numbers, but the answer was a surprising number of Americans of all colors was no. But your race dramatically affected whether you could say yes or no to that question. And then that was attributed largely to someone in your family owned real estate, et cetera, et cetera. But in Nicole Hannah-Jones' article, she basically was like the first generation that she had a story about a study of like just merely purchasing a house in like the first family doesn't change your fortunes much at all.
Right.
What do you make of that?
That is, so what we're looking at with that is, again, we look at the disparities between purchasing homes and who has it, right? And she expands upon that a little bit in terms of income, right? So you think, okay, if you're Black and you're college educated and you own a home, right? That means, and many of the studies show this and she references, most white people think, oh, then you probably own about $90 to $100 of what white people own in terms of median family wealth. Not true. You own 10 of every, right? So there is a $90 gap in terms of wealth for the same level of education among Black and white people.
Yeah, going to college doesn't solve it either. Yeah.
Doesn't solve anything because you're now saddled with debt and burden. So when you get out of college, right, you can't do, what do I want to do with my life? No, I have to pay back this anchor that's on my back. So I have to do whatever I need to do, take a job I don't want, all these different things to just get rid of this. The idea of wealth being passed down generationally. One of the number one ways that wealth is passed down is through home ownership, right? Life insurance trusts, these kinds of things that were historically barred from people like us, right? So therefore, how am I going to pass wealth down generationally? You look at the numbers, right? A high school educated white person generally has the same income level as a college educated Black person, right? Wait, and here's the advantage. They didn't go to college, so I don't have to worry about paying any debt back. Like, these are the systemic and systematic things that we talk about that are evident everywhere we look. And so her point about reparations is it's this myth, and I said this in the chat, Black people, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Dude, you took my boots and cut off my feet. Like, how am I supposed to pull myself up by anything? You took us all, okay, free, great. Now what? All right. What are we supposed to? All this land we toiled over and built and profited and made all this. We got none of that. So how are you supposed to move forward? And when you do move forward, like they did in a neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Greenwood District, the Black Wall Street, the racial animus was so great at seeing Black prosperity. White mobs who got weapons from state officials, right? We talk about state sanctioned, right? It's all connected. That state sanctioned murder of Black people, like we see George Floyd, like we see every day on the news. They decided, nah, we're gonna burn up all these houses, all these businesses, and kill all these people because we don't like it. And it's incredible. And if you can't see that reparations are and the economics are needed to actually make a just society, like, one, I encourage you to do more homework and learning. And then if you're really still having a tough time, ask yourself some tough questions, right? Why is it that you don't want to see that? What are the reasons behind that make you feel uncomfortable?
You know what I think about, Jarod, is like, to me it's like a no-brainer. Like, of course we have to do that. It's just a question of like how.
Right.
And I've talked about my elbow injury too much, but for some reason in this, like, they're similar. This is a freaking, like, when I first did it, it was like this deep, disgusting, you could see things you never wanted to see, like wounds. Then it got infected. It's just a nightmare. But the body heals, right? Like, once you get it in a position to heal, right? And I mean, here's what happens in reality: disgusting goo oozes into that spot and magically transforms into an elbow. Like, all the different parts, the skin, the muscles, the veins, whatever, they're just created there by magic. So to me, I'm like, okay, like, we had to make the circumstance. I had to stop falling off bicycles, and get the dirt out of it, etc., the bacteria, so that it could do the magic, right? So, like, I felt like, I mean, this is a really stupid example, but when we bought this house, we were in our 20s, we had no money, and the bank gives you all these forms, and we now know that it would very commonly be, they wouldn't even give us the forms if we were Black, right? But it was overwhelming. They're asking us stuff. I felt like we were probably getting ripped off with every form. There was something I didn't understand, didn't make sense. And basically, like, my father-in-law, who'd been through it a million times, or my dad, or my mother-in-law, were basically, I was like, no, that's totally normal. Just give them, like, they need your credit report, or step by step. Like, they taught us to trust and to feel trusted and to be part of this, like to dock with this mothership institution that made no sense to me. It felt totally alien, but they were there just to be like, they're there, like, you'll fit in here. And we got a perfectly good mortgage rate and everything was fine. And, but I feel like that's one more little, like, tough advantage. It's just like I know that I sometimes reference this high school class I took where I talk about the qualities of a hero. And one of the hero qualities is to know who to trust, like who's a friend and who's a foe, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a one more poverty here, right? Is like, when you can't trust anybody, it's very hard to know who to trust, right? And like,
huge,
and you want, we're gonna have to build that trust, and that's the part where, like, reading Nicole's article, I was like, it's like breaking the trust you can do in a heartbeat, but building it is. Right. It was always going to take generations, right? It just is.
100%. And that the house example you brought up, Henry, is so perfect, right? Like, how many countless stories have we seen of Black people going to buy houses, right? Same qualifications or even better ones than a white person, and the mortgage rates are different. Things like that are supposed to be blind, right? Credit score is 750, credit score is 690. 750 gets a better rate. That's just how it works, right?
That's the infection. Math. That's the infection. Right. Yeah.
It's just math, but not really. Or redlining, right? Like, it's, and if you look at any county in America or state where it's an overwhelming Black population, and you'll see redlining, right? Why you look around, you go, why is this district or this neighborhood overwhelmingly white and this one overwhelmingly Black? Do your research and you'll be like, oh, that's why they do it that way, right? The idea that a Black family with a median income of $100,000 lives among people with median incomes of $58,000. That doesn't make any sense because it doesn't happen in any other group, right? It's just like, well, how come they don't live over here with these people? And it's because they were steered away from certain neighborhoods. I mean, my parents had that example. When we moved from Brooklyn to New Jersey and they were going house shopping, the real estate agent said, oh, why don't we look at homes over here? And we went driving. I'm like, well, homes over here are fine, but how come we're not looking at the homes over here? Like, what? Why can't we go to this part? Like, and again, I was what, 13, 12, but I wasn't thinking about it in those terms. But
Nowadays, you'd be here with the camera, like, why are you going left? Right? Where are we going right now?
Over here? Why are we going over here? But yeah,
what about this bankruptcy thing? Like, I know like Elizabeth Warren's done a ton of studying it, as have a million academics, right? Like real financial destitution is very commonly caused by a healthcare bill, right? By something happens at the hospital, something your family finances go off the rails when someone gets sick, especially now, I guess. So I don't know. To me, it feels a little bit like a base layer under this conversation is a healthcare solution, right? Like people can't be going bankrupt right and left, right? I don't know.
I'm with you on that. My cousin's wife is from Barcelona, and one of the wonderful things that they have in Spain is, healthcare, free healthcare, right? You're a Spanish citizen, you got free healthcare. Not only that, they all, because her parents, we were talking about it the other day, and she said, so we have healthcare, but my parents have private insurance with the state, with the government sponsored insurance. And the difference is that the private insurance over there is not as expensive as it is here. She's like, something like $200 for a family. I was like, $200 for a family? $200 for a family is not getting you squat here in terms of health insurance. It's not even getting you anything as an individual. And if it is, it's probably the worst coverage that exists, right? You can't see any doctors, you get nothing covered, you're out of pocket super high. And again, all of this is tied to capitalism, right? When you decide that every single entity is about making money, think about hospitals, right? How many people that run hospitals and hospital systems are MD, MBAs, right? Okay, cool. They got the medical part because you got to have that. Can't run a hospital if you're not, but that's that MBA part. And they think about hospital costs and dollars and cents, right? In terms of beds, like it's a hotel. What's our occupancy this week? Like that's not how healthcare should be looked at, right? Healthcare doesn't work that way. And Bilal, I'm sure, can really attest to this. It's really about providing care to your citizenry so that if they are healthy, what are they doing? Working and then spending money, right? Like that to me seems like a better alternative than this other system where it's like, oh, well, we got to pay money into these insurers. And then if you have this bad injury happen and you got no money, you're going to be bankrupt and homeless. Like, 'cause that's literally what happens, right? If you have a serious catastrophic injury and you don't have adequate coverage, like you're going to go bankrupt. And if you're if you're Black or you're another disempowered group, you're probably going to end up, that is. Most people, if you lose your job today or tomorrow, your health insurance goes. You know what those COBRA payments are like? Holy hell, where are you getting the money to pay for that? You're already out of work. Like these are all and again, these things all disproportionately affect Black people worse than they affect other people. Look at COVID, the numbers, we're seeing it, right? Because your frontline workers, your people who give us the security of, I don't want to go outside today, let me get my delivery from the pizza man, right? Probably a person of color, right? So they're taking all these risks because they have to keep their lights on. And this is where we're at. Chris, thank God I live in Canada. Well, you are lucky you live in Canada, right? It is.
That's insurance shaming.
Listen, I'm the wife and 2 kids. We pay $36,000 a year in healthcare before deductible. And my son had ankle surgery last February and broke his ankle. And I asked my wife yesterday, what did it cost us? And we pay for school insurance for additional. And it's, well past 1,000, 2,000. She doesn't remember. And that's just $36,000 for regular preventive and dental. It's outrageous.
Coach, that's somebody's mortgage. Like $3,000 a month for health insurance?
No, $36,000 a year. $36,000 a year for my family.
$3,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
So that's a mortgage. That's
mortgage. I know, Jared. Jarod, I know.
You can buy a house.
What the hell?
Yeah,
it is. Every year.
It makes sense. And that it's not. Healthcare is that expensive, right? Like the bills are so huge. And to me, like I understand, charging what something costs, but to me the crazy part is like, if you're willing to have people go without, then you can have the free market set the price, right? So it's just easy question for the federal government, right? It's like, are you willing to have a whole bunch of Americans without insurance? Then the free market can just solve it. But if you're not, well, then it's obviously not going to work, right? Like it's just obviously not going to be there.
It's coming up today in the Supreme Court. I think they're supposed to rule today whether they can just disband ACA fully and put 23 million people or so off healthcare amidst a raging pandemic.
Which, of course, by the way, right, getting rid of ACA, all of the people, majority of people who were on it who complain, Obamacare, blah, blah, all these bad things. Okay, well, now you're going to have no health insurance, right? And this is what Dr. Kendi, Ibram Kendi talks about, and a lot of other people talk about. The ways in which people consistently, and in this case, white people, vote against their own self-interest, elect people.
How dare you give me health insurance?
Right? Yes. Who put policies in place that actually hurt you, all in the name of, but only because you want to keep propping up this system of white supremacy, right? That system, which actually hurts you ultimately because you're not in the ruling class, right? Back to capitalism. You're willing to keep that thing going because how dare I have health insurance and these Black and brown people get it too? Like, it's just like, what? Like, it's insane. Even if you're racist, like, who cares if you don't you want to be well? Like, you know what I mean? Like that, it's just that disconnect is like, I don't get it.
It's I think I can make this connect to the NBA just before we end, which is I don't know the answer. I'm not like suggesting there's some answer out there that someone else knows, but like, if the NBA brings the coronavirus to Disney and Disney workers get the coronavirus and it affects their whole family and and on, like, who pays for all that? What if you're out of work for 2 months, right? Like, who pays for that? That's one of the questions I had for the league that they haven't answered, but we didn't think about that. That's actually, that guy, Zachary Binney, was big on, like, we need to first make sure we don't spread the coronavirus, then worry about sports. And, this is not, there'll be private jets headed to Orlando with probably not 0% coronavirus. And then what happens? It's,
well, I wonder, Henry, so when the NBA and NBPA just released that press release while we were on saying 16 people, it seems to me that announcement is like, oh, look, it's only 16. We're going to quarantine and everything's okay. But 16 out of 450 is, right, thanks, Bilal, right? That's noticeable, right? Like, that matters. I just wonder, like, their whole, like, what's your thought behind them saying, like, look, guys, only 16 people? Like, it seems to me kind of like self-serving in a way, like, oh, look, all good. It's these 16. We're going to get that quarantine isolated. No problem. Life's going to move on.
They're in an impossible situation, right? Like, everything they say will be seen as the wrong thing to say. If they said nothing, they'd be like, they're hiding it. You know what I mean? I don't, yeah. Chris is making a good part. There's only 22 teams, so it's a bigger percentage.
Less than
we need new math.
Yes, 16 out of 302. Someone do that percentage real quick.
We have to get our math from England. But yeah. I don't know. I guess I'm generally gonna not whack them for transparency to the extent they had it. And I do understand that they can't release the names.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But
HIPAA and all that. I get it.
What we don't know is how many. What I'd love to know is how many players have antibodies.
Oh. Were they doing both tests? Were they doing?
I don't know.
They were doing.
No, they weren't. They can. I mean, antibody tests are available.
Yeah.
I've not heard anyone taking antibody tests.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
It could be a shining light in this, right? Like,
it's true.
If a lot of players, and I did hear anecdotally that there were many more positives than we knew before. Among players and staff and coaches and everything. So that would help the whole bubble thing will go a lot better if a lot of people have already had it.
The connection though with the first thing we mentioned on 9x90 with all the different law enforcement agencies converging to, like, that to me is just, it's so fascinating, because I'm just like, all right, so you're expecting like total cooperation from local law enforcement, national Homeland Security. Like, that just seems like a lot of entities and moving body parts that
it's impossible.
I don't trust. I don't also trust either.
It's never happened before.
Right.
They've never been able to get along. Heck, you can't get police officers in squad all to coordinate all that well. Like, it's hard to do. You're not going to get that.
This is.
Wait, did you guys remember the Clearview AI story? Do you know about this?
No.
There are a few of these entities that use facial recognition and do sort of scary things with public cameras or social media accounts and sort of figure out, remove everybody's privacy. One of the famous stories was this company called Clearview AI, but there are others that have, among their founders, a disturbing level of connections to racism. And when the Clearview AI story came out, there have been a few like investigative stories about this. One of the entities that they had been active with was the NBA. They'd done some pilot project. The NBA kind of poo-pooed it, like, oh, we just did one little thing and blah blah blah. But yeah, as I was reading, as you were reading a thing, I made a note. I'm like, yeah, that's like there's potentially a data solution to like contact tracing and this kind of stuff, but it's going to be an expensive giant giving up of privacy. And so far, it seems to me the Players Association has been like, we're not doing that. Like they could all be wearing, devices,
right?
That would make it so that we would really know you could contact trace perfectly well, right? It could be that when Nikola Jokic tests positive, we could really quickly find out exactly where he got it and who would find out who else was there. It would increase safety, but now Nikola just has to give up all his privacy.
I mean, he tested positive, as did Novak Djokovic. We're both Serbian, and like I think they were actually both together at some point over the past couple of weeks, and that's why everybody's making the connection that way.
Yeah. Anyway, it seems like that Tim Bontemps story sort of hinted at that there would be some of this giving up of privacy that the Players Association had rejected because you're not going to wear the device, but hey, we can find out where you're going anyway.
Right, because that tracker like that lets you in or out. That's a GPS, I assume, right? Like,
well, there's all kinds of. I mean, even just an Apple Watch can tell you wherever you've been.
That's true.
Your phone, just your phone data.
Just
carry your phone in your pocket. If everybody agrees to wear it and everyone feels safe and they here's this trust thing again, right?
Trust.
If the people who take our data weren't routinely so creepy with it, you probably could convince everyone in the bubble to wear some kind of thing that reports just in a safe and transparent way, just enough information, but instead it's like, who knows who gets that database, right?
There's an opportunity for well-spoken veteran leaders, inspirational guys, talented players to really, they can't control everyone, but they can talk to their team and they can talk to the league about, we all need to be smart. None of us, once they're into the bubble, we have to assume they're okay. They can't control the Disney employees. And I have no idea, by the way, the latest on whether or not Disney employees can go back and forth out of the bubble, which
most of them are.
So it's not a bubble. So it's just an area of relative safety. Let's just call it the area of relative safety. It's not a bubble by any stretch, but they can certainly challenge their own people. Hey, I want my family to come visit me. I know you're single. I'm not. I got a wife and kids or whatever. Please. And my experience is young people, they'll listen to people they respect. They'll listen. Doesn't mean they'll be perfect. In fact, history says no one's perfect. But there's a chance that they can do something really positive and unite on a lot of issues. In fact, I think they will. I don't know what happened everywhere else, but I think our leaders will be great. Whoever that'll be.
It's got to be LeBron, Chris.
Whoever it'll be.
All those guys.
LeBron, Giannis, Chris Paul are low-hanging fruit. Henry said to me this morning, CJ McCollum. That's Damian. Those are respected dudes. Respected dudes.
We asked our friend Brandon, the NBA agent, who he thought, who had like the best messages, and he was like, "Oh, Garrett Temple made the most sense by far."
Yeah.
So, I think it's not the same as who plays the best. It's who has the message that earns it.
Right. We got a question. Question came in here from David. What do we think about the potential lasting effects of getting COVID and how this might affect players?
Super worried about that.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't think I said this on the pod, but I'll say it here. So my mother and brother got COVID. I mean, they're fine. They got it early. But I was very worried about my mom because she's an older woman, and she's an at-risk population, and we don't know the long-term effects on your lungs and respiratory and all of those types of things. So literally every day I talk to her, it's like, how are you breathing? Like, it's all these like things, like, what's going on? How are you feeling? Like, just to make sure that, things are okay. But it is, if you're a player, you got to be concerned about this because, again, we don't know, but it could potentially impact your future playing, right? Like, if you're diminished respiratory by, 25%, that's a huge deal, right? Like, that's, you're probably not playing NBA basketball anymore. Like, I don't know enough about like the medical part, but like that seems like something that could be really problematic for your career, which also means your future earnings, which means your family's well-being. Like all of these like compounding effects they're catastrophic, man.
And we're not sure about the insurance ramifications. Or at least when I talk to people in the league before, it's a big deal. So, maybe you have a guaranteed contract, maybe you don't, maybe you're expiring, right? But if you're diminished, and if you're a star and your career ends, then generally the team has insurance on your contract, so you'll get all your money, and the team won't be out that money. But if you're a star and you're diminished, so now you're still on the team, but you're just not selling tickets anymore, the team is not going to be able to cash in that insurance most likely. So they're going to pay you, a fortune, and some teams don't have the ability to afford that right now. So everyone's like, no one really knows quite how all this goes. And I know the NBA announced sort of like some kind of new insurance program, but yeah, the coronavirus is an untested sort of financial effect on how each player goes. So we don't really know how everyone's going to be paid if you do get sick. Like it could be problematic.
And we don't. Yeah, we don't see, because Devin's asking if there's an outbreak, will the NBA cancel the season? And like, look, I think what we're seeing is they need this money. Like this is a money-driven play, because no money, if they don't get the rest of the TV money this year, they are severely screwed next year, because it's this no money on top of the money they lost from China to start the season. I think it was a couple of $100 million, I think was the early numbers reported, but that has severe impacts on the future of the league. So yeah, man, this is a tangled web.
I hope it works really well. Hope everyone's really healthy, and hope that we look like a bunch of ninnies for worrying about it now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Better be worried about it. As Fauci said this right away, better to panic a little bit and have it all go okay than ignore it. And we know what's going to happen then.
Yeah, there you go. All right, you guys. We will see you next week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Don't forget the new schedule. And thank you very much. Thanks, Jarod. Thanks, Judy. Thanks,
you.
David.
Be safe, everyone.